up, everyone? I am the Kaijin Okami, and today I'm going to do something a tad different because mostly just to avoid copyright claims. So this is going to be a Clipless top 10 list, which is going to be on my top 10 favorite MCU films, or pretty much it could just be top 10 favorite Marvel films since it's both the same practically.
Number 10.
Kicking this list off is the space opera known as Guardians of the Galaxy. I just absolutely adore this movie. I knew absolutely nothing about the Guardians going into the film. When I came out of it, I was like, damn, those were really good characters, and this was a really good movie. It does Star Wars better than Star Wars. It was funny, it was interesting, the characters were all unique and had all these different quirks to them. I really loved the banter between Groot and Rocket, especially every time Rocket was going to be like, hey, I need his eye, or I need his leg, or I need that. Just a fun all-around movie. Unfortunately, the villain does kind of suck, which is kind of bad because Ronan is a really cool character in the comics. In this movie, he's just generic, one-dimensional, and pointless. The best thing about the villains in this movie is finally getting to actually see Thanos. Oh, and the soundtrack's awesome. What else is there to say?
Number 9.
The one that started it all, Iron Man. I remember how people were talking about, oh, Robert Downey Jr. would be the perfect actor to play Tony Stark. And then it finally happened. He was cast as Tony Stark, and everyone was cheering. But it's like, well, I'm not really a big Iron Man fan, which is kind of funny given I have an Iron Man t-shirt on right now. And it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, the cartoon series in the 90s was kind of cool at points, but it wasn't that good, and I don't really read the comics. I'm just not that big of an Iron Man fan, so, I guess it's cool he's getting his own movie, but let's see. And then we saw it, and it was like, holy shit, this was really, really good. I won't say that I rushed out to read any Iron Man comics. In fact, I still haven't actually read any Iron Man comics beyond the few I've read in the 90s when I was growing up. But the movie itself was perfectly cast. It was perfectly paced. It was a phenomenal first movie for Iron Man. First of all, it's the first Iron Man movie ever, and the fact that they made a near masterpiece right on the first try was amazing. That was totally unexpected. And it kicked off the MCU, so that makes it even better. Like, I remember that post-credit scene when you're like, oh, snap! Yeah!
Number 8.
My next choice is kind of tough because you kind of need to see the one that goes before it to be able to enjoy this one, and that is Avengers Endgame. It continues directly off of where Infinity War left off, then has a 5-year jump, with the world having to adapt to basically half of the population just dying off, disappearing, being disintegrated, wiped out of existence, whatever you want to call it. This shows the aftermath of that and how everyone's coping with it. Then it does some time-traveling antics, which you were kind of expecting, but then they go and say, well, if we're going to do this time-traveling thing, we need to make it right so that we don't just reboot the universe. Which is kind of a nice commentary on how comic books always like to reboot their universe whenever things go wrong or things go whatever. I mean, it's kind of confusing on that aspect because there are things that you can kind of pull apart at the threads if you actually think about it with this movie, which is why it's so high up on the list. But then again, it's also high on the list because there's a lot of great movies in this MCU franchise. It's just a great finale to a 10-year-long saga.
Number 7.
The next movie on my list is another one I was skeptical about because I just don't care for this character in the comic books. I have no interest in reading comics around him, and that is AntMan. I don't know why. I do like the Atom better in DC, so when they were saying they were making an Ant-Man movie, I was just like, really? Ant-Man? Out of all the characters to do, you're doing Ant-Man? Okay, sure, why not? That just seems random to do this lackluster dude. And then the movie came out, and the movie was like, hey, this is like a heist movie with a superhero movie within it. This is so good. And then there's Lewis. I want to see Lewis do an entire recap of the MCU with him just telling the story and his voice and everything. Lewis is awesome. The movie is just enjoyable all around. Michael Douglas is badass, but Michael Douglas is badass in everything. My favorite role of his is still in The Game. And then, of course, his father is awesome, especially in, like, Ace in the Hole and stuff. I always look forward to watching this one over, even though it is one of the ones I haven't really rewatched the most because there's just so much going on in life. Nevertheless, truly a really good movie, and I loved how the movie kept everything on a small scale.
Number 6.
When the first Captain America came out, known as the first Avenger, I was kind of like, yeah, this is good, but not exactly great. And then over multiple viewings, I watched it and I like it more and more. However, not enough to make my list. Which means the next one on my list is easily Civil War. In fact, it used to be my second favorite MCU. As you know now, it's now back here. Still, it's a really great movie. It does a great job of concluding all the plot lines that had started in the first Avenger, continued in Winter Soldier, and then went to this one, dealing with Bucky and the whole concept of him being the Winter Soldier. It introduces Black Panther and Spider-Man, who are two of the MCU's finest. The action scenes are pretty kick-ass. The music rocks. I totally agree with Captain America's side of things. Superheroes should not have to bow down to the governments to give them their identities and everything to register that they can be a superhero. This isn't Tiger and Bunny. This is the Marvel freaking universe. If a superhero wants to abide by the governments, they can. But they do not have to do it, and that is why Iron Man is wrong.
Number 5.
A hero is only as good as his villain. And this movie is without a doubt a supervillains movie. And that is Infinity War. Infinity War was just so good. It's a Thanos movie. What comic book movie before this could you really say was a supervillain movie? Nope. This is the first movie that was revolving around a supervillain. This is Thanos' movie. It could have been called Thanos Infinity War, and it still would have been top notch. Thanos is such a sympathetic character. You understand his reasonings for why he does what he does. It's tragic and yet compelling. He's a well-written character, one of the best supervillains in comic book history. He was really intriguing. You really felt for him. Like that scene with Gamora when he was going after the Soul Stone was really, really touching, and you're like, damn, that's messed up, but that's Thanos. And then, of course, that ending. Oh my god, that ending was so badass. But I think my favorite scene in this movie is when Thanos is fighting Iron Man and he just starts bringing the moon down on top of our heroes.
Number 4.
Next on my list is the first superhero movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture, and that is Black Panther. It's a spy thriller with a superhero movie within it. Killmonger was an intriguing villain, which is nice to see because the Phase 2 era of the MCU films were really lacking in the compelling villains area. Then the Phase 3 movies were kind of like, well, we need to rectify that. So they gave us Killmonger. We obviously have Hela and Grandmaster. We've got Vulture and Mysterio. But yeah, Killmonger was really good, and he was well acted. The music and visuals in Black Panther are frickin' incredible. The biggest letdown is the big battle sequence towards the end, not just because the CGI is kind of dodgy there, but also just because at this point, big battle sequences kind of feel boring nowadays. It's just, I don't know. Big battle scenes just seem to be uninspiring because every movie's done it so many times nowadays that it's just kind of like, big battle scene. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love big battle scenes, but if you're going to do a big battle sequence at this point with multiple armies, you need to do something with the camera work to keep it engaging. Because at this point, it just looks like I'm playing a Dynasty Warriors army game or something.
Number 3.
So I've got to say that numbers 2 and 3 on this list, I'm still kind of going back and forth on. I'm not sure which one I like more, but for the moment, number 3 is going to be SpiderMan Homecoming. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. He's my favorite superhero of all time. I think Tom Holland is hands down the best iteration of Peter Parker to date. He's exactly the same type of Peter Parker that Stan Lee wrote about, that Steve Ditko drew in those early Spider-Man comics. He has the same persona, the same personality, the same bad luck style. He is Spider-Man. Yeah, sure, he does get some of his upgrades from Tony Stark, but you know what? That makes sense because he's a kid. It's also an interesting take on Spider-Man. I know some people were like, but he's not supposed to be that way. Yeah, we've already had 2 movie universes covering that same style. It's nice to see them try to do something different. And people, I know some are upset because Uncle Ben is not mentioned. Do you really need him to mention Uncle Ben all the time? We all know Uncle Ben was his motivation for why he became Spider-Man. We don't need to see the details over and over. We don't need it thrown in our face. With that said, despite being a fantastic superhero movie, this is a coming-of-age high school movie. And then we have Michael Keaton as the Vulture, which is really, really, really good. I think I've said really, really good a lot on this list. But no, seriously, Michael Keaton is very compelling as the Vulture. He's phenomenal as the character. He does a great job. I also love that they have Shocker and Tinkerer in this movie, basically pulling off their Christopher Nolan by going, hey, we can throw in other villains. We just don't need to make them over the top, and we can make them work by making them be part of the story as just goons, because these characters work as goons. All around, just a good time, good, fun movie. And the suit's badass. I really love this suit. I love the smaller spider emblem. It's very Dick Cone Romita-like.
Number 2.
Spider-Man can do whatever a Spider-Man can. Yes, Spider-Man Far From Home. Like I said, I'm not sure really if I like Homecoming more or Far From Home more, but right now I'm going with Far From Home because I really, really loved Mysterio. There I go again saying really, really loved, but whatever. I liked Mysterio a lot. I thought Jake Gyllenhaal was great as the character. I highly enjoyed the execution of him as Mysterio. He's a con man, just like Mysterio's supposed to be, so it worked. I really liked the Night Monkey stuff that they did with Peter Parker. The chemistry between Holland and Zendaya as Parker and Mary Jane is top-notch. They're awkward, just like teens are, because teens act awkward towards each other at times. I loved the quick romance between Ned and Betty. It was hilarious. It just kept you laughing. The action scenes were cool. Again, yes, some of the CGI is dodgy, but hey, that's just the nature of the beast at this point. That's the nature of the beast of CGI in general. Overall, I had a good time with this one, and I love the new spider suit at the end. Oh, and one thing I didn't mention with Homecoming, I love web wings. I love seeing the web wings. I love the web wings in the original comics. I hated that the toys have never been able to recapture the web wings. I love in the comics that Peter said that, well, I made the web wings thinking that I'd be able to glide with it, but they didn't work out very well. And then in these movies, because he has the Stark technology, he has the web wings and can actually glide with them, is freaking amazing.
Number 1.
And my favorite MCU film thus far is Captain America, The Winter Soldier. This is like a political thriller with a superhero movie within it. It's badass. As I've said before, it's so good. It's intense. It has suspense. It keeps you on the edge of your seat at times. Some of the revelations, like with Arnim Zola, are just jaw-dropping. And then you have what may be hands down the best theme music of the entire MCU, which is the Winter Soldier theme. That theme just kicks so much ass. This movie is well acted. The Russo brothers managed to get acting abilities out of Scarlett Johansson, which was incredible, which is probably why Disney had them in charge of Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. The action is top-notch. The twists and turns keep you going, keep you interested. It's just a well-rounded movie all around, and easily one of the best superhero movies ever made, if not the best, because right now, I'd say this could rival The Dark Knight. This and The Dark Knight are, for me, the top superhero movies ever made. I'm not sure which I like better. They both touch on interesting themes. They both have great social commentary. They both offer suspense, tension. The Winter Soldier is still, hands down for me, the best MCU movie thus far. What are your favorite MCU movies? Do you not like the MCU? Are you sick of superhero movies? Let me know in the comments. Click like, click subscribe, click the bell notification, click whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support me. You can support me on Patreon at Kaiju no Kami, Twitter Kaiju no Kami, Instagram Kaiju no Kami, Facebook Kaiju no Kami, and my website creativitybydesignllc.com. Until next time, bye.